gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Well, as always, it's a pleasure to see you there, and today is the 1st of December 2020. And it was probably this time in 2008, 12 years ago, that I started to learn NLP. And that's the topic of conversation today, is about why I learned NLP and what you can learn from my experience. So if you're joining me live, welcome to the live stream. If you're joining me on the replay, welcome. And if you're joining me live, I have a question for you. My question for you is, have you heard of NLP? That's my question. And if you've heard about NLP, give me a yes in the chat box below. If you're joining me here on the replay, have you heard of NLP? And if you have, type yes into the chat box. So it was 2008. I had a business which I lost in 2007. I started a new career with Emirates Airline in 2008. And I had a couple of frustrations. I had a frustration, and it was a repetitive behavior that I had for many years. It had been with me for, I would say, my lifetime. And what I found was that I was sabotaging my own success. Perhaps you've had this same experience. Perhaps everything's going along really good for you, and then you do something to screw it up. Have you had that experience before? Well, I had that experience in sports. I had it in business. And then all of a sudden it started to repeat in my career when I was cabin crew. And so I had this repetitive behavior. I would have success, and then I'd sabotage my own success, having a feeling inside of me that I wasn't worthy of success. Once I got what I wanted after I worked really hard, I didn't feel worthy of that success. It was a mixture of feeling of guilt, a feeling that I was taking advantage of the situation. Some people might call it imposter syndrome. And I had these very uncomfortable feelings about what I actually had. I'd worked hard for it, but then I started to sabotage my own success. And so this started in 2008, and I started to become very aware of it in 2008. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever caught yourself sabotaging your own success? And if you have caught yourself sabotaging your own success, maybe this is one of the reasons why you too should learn NLP. So if you've sabotaged your own success, type in sabotage in the chat box. So here I was, and this is what was happening for me. When I was in Emirates Airline, we had to do examinations. We had to do exams for safety and security. We had to do exams for our cabin crew license. And we had a pass mark. And the pass mark was about 80%. And so it was very, in my opinion today, it's a very low mark. And the benchmark was very low. And all you needed to do was get about 80% to pass the exam. And what I'd do is I'd study really hard for 6 weeks. I'd study on layovers. I would study at home. And then it would come to the exam and my mind would go blank. My mind would go blank. I wouldn't be able to answer the questions. All the questions that I was reading on the paper, all the questions that I could see on the screen, my mind would go blank. And I wasn't able to answer them. And so I'd successfully got the job. I had successfully studied and prepared, and then I start to self-sabotage. My mind goes blank in the examination room. And I'm trying to answer these questions, and the answers aren't coming out. And then I would just rush, and I'd go bang, 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 press whatever buttons, and then I'd get my result back. Instead of getting a pass mark of 80%, my score would come in at 78 or 79%, 1 or 2% below the pass mark. Doesn't seem a lot, but what it means is you have to repeat. And so I could see this pattern of behavior. I would go in, I would retrain, I would come to the exam, and I'd screw up the exam. And I knew that I was sabotaging my own success. Has this happened to you before? Has this happened to you? Have you got success and then you've tried to sabotage it? And so after that, after I'd sabotaged my success, then I'd have to explain myself. Then the trainers would call me over. Daniel, did you study? Daniel, did you pay attention? Daniel, have you got your notes? Yes, yes, yes. But I just can't get past this exam. And so then what they'd do is they would make me repeat. And then when you repeat, the pass mark goes up. And I think the pass mark went up to about 90%. And it gets harder. And so I'd go back, I would study harder. I'd put myself in a mental and emotional rut, in a state of panic. I'd come back and I'd take the exam, and then I got 100%. Would you believe that? Could you believe that? Here I am. I've studied hard for 6 weeks in advance. I've attended the training, and then on the day of the exam, the pass mark's 80, and I screw it up and I get 79%. And I knew that I was sabotaging my own success. The problem was I didn't know how to stop it. And every year, 2008, sabotage. 2009, self-sabotage. 2011, self-sabotage. 2012, self-sabotage. And I just had this repetitive pattern. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to learn NLP. I knew there was something holding me back, but the problem was I didn't know what it was. And if you don't know what your problem is, you can't solve it. So once I started to learn NLP, I realized that I had self-sabotaging behaviors. I had feelings of guilt. Although I had achieved success, I was feeling guilty for getting what I wanted. And what I learned later on is that when you have success, you don't feel worthy of this success. You want to get it away from you. You want to push it away from you. And that's what I was trying to do with this self-sabotaging behavior. But I also picked up another pattern. What was happening was every time I got a score of like 78 or 79, people would say, Daniel, I believe in you. You can do it. You got the brains, you got the intelligence, you can crush this. And all of a sudden I'd get all these pats on the back for poor performance. I'd get all these people saying, hey, you can do it, you can do it. And then I'd go out and I'd do it. And everyone would go, yay, we told you can do it. But then I'd repeat the pattern again. And so what I found was I didn't feel worthy of success. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to push it away. Has this happened to you? Hi, ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Tolson here. Good to see you. Today, I'm talking about why I learned NLP. And the first one here was because I was self-sabotaging. I had success. I didn't feel good about success. I felt guilty for having it, and I wanted to push it away from me. But then once I pushed it away from me, people would say, I believe in you. You can do it. You can achieve anything that you want. And they'd give me pats on the back, and then I'd get 100% just to prove myself right and somebody else wrong. It was a crazy loop. But today, after learning NLP, I became aware of my pattern. I was aware of these emotions that were contributing to my actions and my behaviors, and I was able to let that feeling of guilt go. And so today, I don't feel guilty for having success. I don't feel guilty for having the nice things that I have in my life. I actually feel worthy of success. And it was a massive transformation to go from feeling guilty and unworthy to feeling proud and worthy of the nice things that I have. So Arthur, great to see you there. Self-sabotage. It is a very, very tiring loop indeed. Now, the second thing that I found about learning NLP was that a lot of times in my life, I felt like I was in trouble. Now, when I was growing up, I was going to school and I was getting very bad grades. And I'd go to school, I'd get bad grades, and I was told that I wouldn't pay attention, that I wasn't a good student, that I didn't try hard enough. And so as I went through school, I always thought I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't working hard enough, that I hadn't done enough. And once I got into high school, I repeated the same pattern again. The teachers said, Daniel, you don't prepare, you don't work hard enough, you don't pay enough attention. And so whenever I went into a class, I felt like I was in trouble. Even though I wasn't in trouble and I hadn't done anything wrong, I always felt like I was in trouble. And I had to discover where this problem came from. Arthur, thank you so much. Awareness is the key. I had to try to figure out, why do I have this problem and how can I get rid of it? And once I started to learn NLP, I learned that I had a lot of self-limiting beliefs. I had a belief that I couldn't do well. I had a limiting belief that my success was going to hurt other people's. And so again, I was in this loop. If I win, others lose, that makes me feel bad. If I win, others lose, that makes me feel bad, so I don't even try anymore. And so I had all of this great potential, and you've probably had this as well. You feel that you've got this superpower inside of you. You feel that you've got something very special in here, but you're afraid of your own power. I was so scared of my own abilities. I was afraid to show the world who I was and what I could do. And so I kept it hidden. And so I always felt like I was in trouble. I felt like I was in trouble even if I wanted to do really well. And maybe you've had this same challenge as well. So if you're joining me on the live today, say hello, tell me where you're joining me from. And my question is, have you learned NLP? If you're joining me on the replay, say hello and let me know, have you learned NLP and what did you take away from it? So that was the second thing. I had to get rid of that feeling of doing something wrong, because what happens is when I would start to set goals, I'd set a goal, then I'd think to myself, what if I get it wrong? What if I screw it up? What if somebody gets hurt along the way? And so it was always this fear of hurting somebody. However, what I learned from NLP, it was about hurting myself. I actually had a fear that I was going to hurt myself. If I didn't succeed, I'd hurt myself. If I did succeed, somebody else would lose and I would feel hurt. And so once I was free from that limiting belief and those emotions, that disappeared. And what I started to have was I got more focus. I got more clarity. I had more self-belief. I really felt that I was entitled to have what I want. And it was a massive transformation because it doesn't hold me back anymore. Back then, it probably held me back for more than 30 odd years, but today I'm free from it because I know that I have to win in my life for other people to succeed. It's been a big transformation. So that was the second reason. The third reason why I learned NLP was I felt like I was going to let people down. And I realized that this was a pattern of behavior that I had even when I was working in real estate. I even realized that I had it when I was even owning my own business. And I always felt that I was going to let somebody down. And so it kind of looked like this. I would hop in my Mercedes. I had a beautiful Mercedes. I'd travel around the country and I'd do a sales road show. I would take all of my liquid militia products around the country and I'd show people. I'd make sales. But after I made the sale, I had this feeling of like being an imposter. I felt that I was going to let somebody down. I felt that I've overpromised and I'd never be able to deliver. And so after I made a sale, it felt like I had this thing called seller's remorse. I've made this sale. Can I live up to this promise? And this used to weigh me down. It used to plague my mind. It used to weigh me down on my shoulders. It used to get in my gut and make me sick. And I was always so worried that I was going to make a promise and I wouldn't be able to fulfill the promise. I felt that I'd make a promise, I'd make a sale, but I kept thinking, I'm going to screw it up. I'm going to screw it up. Something's going to go wrong. And this is what's happening in my head. And it's happening. And my head is so loud that I can't focus. There's so much self-talk in here saying, Daniel, you're going to screw it up. Something's going to go wrong. You're going to cost somebody their money, their time, their efforts, their energy. And so I was battling. I'm trying to move forward in life. I'm trying to succeed in my life. And I've got all this shit, this bullshit in my head. And at age 28, I'm waking up going, this has got to stop. And this is one of the reasons why I started to learn NLP. So if you're joining me live here today, say hello. Let me know where you're joining me from. My question is, have you learned NLP? If not, when? And if you're joining us on the replay, have you learned NLP? If not, when? And so I've got these thoughts. I'm ruminating. I'm thinking about what could go wrong. I'm thinking about the promises I've made and now can I fulfill them? And it's this feeling, not buyer's remorse. It's like seller's remorse. Am I going to screw it up? And it really stopped me from moving to that next higher level of success because it was like a glass ceiling. It was like these limiting beliefs prevented me from going to level 2 or level 3 or level 4. And I just kept looping around this same level. I'd make a sale, I'd ruminate, I'd think I'm going to screw it up, something's going to go wrong, I'm going to cost somebody their time, their money, their effort. And the feeling of guilt and shame come in. And then what happened, I stopped promoting myself. I stopped presenting myself in my unique ways. And so it was really holding me back. And my question is, has this happened to you? Am I alone here? Am I the only person in the world who's experiencing this? Or have you experienced it as well? Because when I meet successful people, they're also battling with these mental and emotional blockages. All the emotionally intelligent people that I speak to, they say, Daniel, I have the same shit happening in my head. See, they're aware of it. Emotionally intelligent people are aware of this. Other people don't know what's holding them back. And if you don't know what's holding you back, it could be the same thing that was holding me back. So let me tell you what happened. I would go out, I'd make a sale, I'd get the signed check, I'd get the signed order, I'd come back, I'd sit in my car, I'd drive home, and now I'd start to worry, can I deliver this? Am I going to get it to them on time? Are they going to blow their money? Are they going to hate me? Are they going to buy from me again? Will they ever speak to me again? And this is all happening in my head. And then I started to go into avoidance behaviors, and my results started to go down, down, down. And that was one of the other reasons why I learned NLP. And once I started to learn NLP, I realized that again, I had some self-limiting beliefs. I was fearing success. I was fearing failure. I had these fears that I was going to take advantage of somebody. I had these fears of criticism, that I was going to get in trouble for something that I had done. I was worried about other people's stability and losing my stability. I then was afraid of making mistakes. And these fears was like this bloody cocktail. It was like I was in the movie Cocktail with Tom Cruise. And my whole mind and body is just a cocktail of this bullshit story and these bad feelings in my body. But once I learned NLP, I realized that it was my thoughts that was making me feel this way. The pictures I was putting in my head, I kept imagining myself screwing up. And then once I learned about NLP, I learned how to change my focus. And as soon as I changed my focus, my thoughts changed, and immediately those feelings disappeared. And they didn't hold me back anymore. And once I got rid of those feelings, my results just started to accelerate. My business started to grow and grow and grow. And today, as a coach and a consultant, I've had more than 8,500 people through my live trainings and events around the world. I just can't believe it. Sometimes I just shake my head because of how far I've come in such a short time after letting go of some big mental and emotional blockages. And these are the reasons why I've learned NLP. These are 3 reasons. There's many others, but these are 3 really big ones. Arthur, thank you so much. The crazy self-talk is the battle of the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other. And we do get into these loops, and perhaps you're in a loop right now. Perhaps you feel that you have this income glass ceiling. One of my clients said to me, Daniel, it's not a glass ceiling, it's a glass box. And I can see what I want, but I just can't reach out to it. I can see what I want, but I just can't reach out to it. I try to get it here. I try to go this way and get it. I try to go this way and get it. I try to go this way, but I feel like I'm in this glass box. And this box resembles all my limitations. They're holding me back. And it's glass because it's invisible. Your mental and emotional blocks are invisible. But I'll tell you what, you can feel it. You can feel them there. You're trying to move forward, and there's a lot of resistance. So if you've been held back by mental or emotional blockages, if you're putting in a lot of effort for very little reward, if you're stressed and you can't explain whilst you're stressed, then you're probably going through a couple of things that I went through. The first thing I was doing, I was sabotaging my own success. I was setting myself up for failure. That was the first thing. And I overcome it using NLP. Never been a problem since. The second one, I always felt like I was in trouble, or I was going to get in trouble for something that I'd been doing wrong. I was always expecting the police to call. Daniel, come down to the station. But it was all in my mind. It was these feelings of guilt and unworthiness that were holding me back. The third thing, I felt like I was going to hurt someone and let somebody down. I was worried that I was going to take advantage of somebody's situation. I was worried about rejection and criticism. I was fearing that I was going to lose my stability. I was fearing that I was going to lose and make a mistake. And I'd created this cocktail of bullshit stories and bad feelings. And I just got stuck and I couldn't move forward. But as soon as I moved forward and got rid of that, my business took off. Today I've had more than 8,500 people through my live events and trainings around the world. And I'm just growing. It's like growth out of control. It's like growth on steroids because I got rid of the big things which were holding me back. And the big things, ladies and gentlemen, are your bullshit stories. It's the self-sabotage, and it's all the reasons why you tell yourself that you can't have what you want. And so once you get rid of that, you'll transform your life. Now, you're probably wondering, what's all this stuff on the screen? Well, this weekend I have an NLP training coming up, and what we find interesting in NLP is that people move their eyes in different directions. And when they're moving their eyes, it gives us a clear idea on how they're using their mind at any given time. So what I'm going to be doing after this video is I'm going to download this video and I'm going to watch which way my eyes are moving. And then I'm going to have a better understanding of how I'm representing my internal world to the external world. And once I do that, I can become a better communicator and I can get better results in my life. So ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's a pleasure to be here with you. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? It's already the 1st of December, 2020. Imagine that. I think for me, this is probably one of the best years that I have ever had. My business is successful. My relationships are successful. My health are great. My family's wonderful. Social life could be a little bit better. It's getting better once COVID disappears. But I feel that God has blessed me this year. I feel that God has got his magic wand out and he said, Daniel, I'm going to wave a magic wand for you, son, and I'm going to send COVID-19 to help you. I'm going to send COVID-19 so you can have time at home with your loved ones and have some great health. So I believe COVID-19 has impacted a lot of people, but once we get through this, ladies and gentlemen, I think you're going to see how much of a blessing COVID-19 is going to be for you. It's been a blessing for me. I've been able to reinvent myself. My clients have totally reinvented themselves. I have clients doing personal bests right in the middle of COVID-19. One of my clients rang me today and they said, Daniel, we've just done 2 personal bests in our business in the toughest economic climate we've ever seen. And so once you start to look for the silver lining here, you're going to realize that COVID-19 was the best thing that's ever happened to you. Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are today, much love to you, and I'll see you soon. Ciao for now.